Specifically with the vault, it was such a painless experience because after Steve and I had basically come up with what we wanted to talk about, he basically said, okay, so Pete, what don't you want to write? And so we split it up 50-50, and I got to write everything I wanted to. I didn't have to fight for any section. It's like, these are the things I want to write about. He says, okay, you do those, I'll do the rest. So I thought that was fantastic because I didn't actually have to write anything I didn't want to write about. He got to do all the dirty work.
And another thing on collaborating, I think one of the great things about collaborating is that you get complementary strengths that each of the authors brings to it. So all of us don't are punching the same mold, and so you want that. Where individually you might not have as good a book as you could do, but when you have those complementary strengths, you make a great book. And then also, though, as Duncan mentioned, like that you get along. You think you have a similar vision as to what you want to do with your projects. You have a way to discuss things where you have different viewpoints on how something should go. So I love collaborating on books. I think it produces much better product. Okay, just to have those different views. And so, but it's that balance of people that think alike on the right things, but then other things where you actually want to have a very different perspective.
And I think it's very important to establish the right team, if it's a co-author, if it's an editor, if it's a designer or a photographer. You all have to be on the same page with everything, and you have to be able to work well together, bounce ideas back and forth, to be able to get it on the page and to have it come out with the results that everyone's looking for. So I think it's very important to have the right team established when you're working on a project like this.
Speaking of collaboration, I have to go join another book panel that's like this one, so I will get you guys a view. And he'd like to remind us that his book is for sale, $125, is that right? We'll talk about the details at the end.
I'd like to speak a little about collaboration with Pete. One of the great things that Pete brings to a project is his eternal curiosity. And sometimes I wonder, why is he curious about that? And there's very good reason, because he keeps asking questions. And as a matter of fact, Pete, continuing to ask questions, long after I thought, well, who cares, resulted in George getting back a very valuable and treasured item that he had never had. And George loves the art of the poster. All of his canvases are plastered with the most magnificent 3 and 6 sheets. A lot of foreign art, when posters used to be beautifully done and done differently everywhere in the world instead of the same boring photographic poster in every country. One of the mysteries in the Star Wars poster collecting community was whatever happened to the original art with the incredible circus poster, Style D, Star Wars art, the first poster that Drew Struzan worked on. And he started telling me, in the reporting of the book, he heard that so-and-so, who was a former senior official at Fox, actually owned the painting. And we both thought that was curious, and then Pete had already interviewed the guy by the time he had heard this information, and left a couple of messages with the guy and said, gee, I'd really like to see it. And that was honest, he wanted to see it. I'm going to be down in the area, and, the guy never got back to him. He was friendly in the first place, talking to him. Oh, that's curious. And we're working on the book, and a press release comes out from Heritage Auctions or one of these places announcing its big mid-year sale of movie posters and movie poster art. And guess what they were featuring in this? Yeah, it was the original art, the Charlie White Drew Struzan art for the Style D poster. And I thought, that's curious. Pete asks all these questions, and a month later it appears, and they said, they expect the opening bid at around $100,000. And based on the information that Pete had developed and who owned it, presumably, I knew that George not having that poster, the original art, and had often wondered where it had gone. And so I alerted our head of business affairs and also George's assistant and said, you know, as we were reporting this book, Pete thinks that this art belongs to, you know, so-and-so. And so our lawyer called so-and-so, and he said, oh, well, no, you know, when I was at Fox, Charlie White gave me that art, and, you know, it's just sort of a thank you gift, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, she didn't quite believe that, because Drew Struzan said, no way. Drew, of course, had become friendly with George and had done a lot of work for George, and Drew said, that is not the way it happened. Drew was pretty darn certain. And so our legal affairs lady called Fox and said, I know this is a long shot, but by any chance, can you look for and locate information in your files regarding this particular piece of art and poster? And believe it or not, within 2 days, Fox had located the contract. And the contract was very explicit that Fox had bought not only the rights to the art, but the specific original art itself. And guess who had scrawled notes over the contract? This top executive at Fox, who knew damn well that Charlie White hadn't given the poster. So she called him again and said, oh, well, you know, I gave that art to my son, and that's my son selling it, and he can do with it what he wants. And she said, yes, but we found this contract. I'll fax you a copy. And 2 days later, the painting was in George's office with a big red bow, and it didn't cost him $100,000. So, and that's what curiosity gets you. I mean, not only a great book and great stories and great interviews, but also a painting for George, for which we got full credit, didn't we, Pete? Oh, they thanked the head of legal affairs. She forgot to mention how she found out about it.
Well, I think pretty soon we're going to open up the floor to more questions, but what do you feel, being the heads of Star Wars publishing in a collectible era right now, where do you feel like it's going? What's the future of Star Wars collectible publishing, the internet age? What are your projects in specific? And I think we know what Todd's is, but you know, what are your future projects, and where do you think it's going?
Todd's future is to finish.
Well, one area I'd really like to see explored, and I think the internet age is actually making us more relevant, is fan-produced collectibles, especially those that were generated back in the 70s and 80s, like fanzines and maybe sculptures, etc. I think that's an area that hasn't really been explored, mainly because it was unsanctioned, and you know there might be some legal hurdles to covering such materials. But I think that's an area I definitely welcome in terms of letting me do it.
And Sky to bootlegs.
Would anybody be interested in seeing another 1,000 collectibles?
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't supposed to give any information about what our next project is, but since you guys seem like quiet folk and won't share with anyone, we're going to do Gus and Duncan's comprehensive guide to Star Wars socks. We're going to give every known sock, but we're going to go into more detail. We're going to talk to the people that manufactured it. Thread counts. People have been asking me thread counts for years on, you know, and we're going to have different styles of the fabrics that were used and look at some of the manufacturing processes that went into it all. So that's, don't tell anybody, but that's our next book.
I was just teasing him. If you want to say something else,
No, since I'm in the middle of this editing process, yeah, my goal is to finish this book. So the editing is definitely tedious, and I think everybody on the panel up here has experienced it. And the big goal in the future is to finish this book and get it out to all the fans.
For me, I am planning The Force in the Flesh Volume 2. I'm not quite sure when that's going to be available, but I kind of have the layout of all the people that I want in it. I'm going to start approaching people for photos and we're getting the ball rolling. Well, we got to find the money to self-publish the next one. I have plans to do a pop culture tattoo book where we cover like video game, comic books, toy line, all kinds of different tattoos from all those all those genres, which I think would be really fun. And I'd really like to just do a high-end toy photography book where we just take the rarest toys in the world and just do beautiful photos of them. And that's something I'd like to do down the road too.
I've given it up for Lent. After 1,000 collectibles, I've taken a bit of a break. I thought 14 Star Wars books, most of them on collectibles, was enough for a while, and Celebration 5 was basically, and yeah, I've got a lot of other books I want to do, and you know, if they all start to get around to them, the joint book with Duncan, the World of Star Wars T-shirts, which, of course, well, actually, some of the, but then you do, I'd like a 100-page section on the Walmart T-shirts. But, you know, the world of bootlegs is an interesting one. We certainly included some in the Star Wars book, and some were banned. So actually, we should do the banned Star Wars collectibles. That would have to be self-published. I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't want a Stormtrooper bomb in a book like that. Or bootleg Japanese condoms, or, you know, stuff like that.
Well, let's open up the question. I'm sure there's hundreds, right here, right there.
The author of, can you speak about, quickly about the creator, about what happened there, and when I can buy that book?
Yep. Yeah, actually there was a panel with my co-author Ryder Wyndham last night on this, and fortunately our editor Eric was there to actually answer that very question. There was a problem apparently with the varnish used on the pages that somehow interacted with the shipping containers. I'm not exactly sure what the chemistry is there, but somehow when these books are exposed to some air inside shipping containers, this new type of varnish adhered, made sticky pages, and so when people open the book, some of the ink would be taken off once the pages were separated. So what they have done is basically destroyed all the remaining copies that were not yet shipped, and they are going to reprint and should be available October 2011.
I guess over in the UK, a lot of people that have the book and they claim it was fine. October,
He's asking about.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna. He was asking why these are all available in the UK but not the US. The reason is there's a different publisher in the UK that didn't have this problem. So those people in Europe, etc., have the book. It's just the US copies that were problematic. Yes, those were the true first edition. Actually, the edition that's going to come out in October, there's several corrections, which I won't specify, but there were a few. So that's going to make this first edition feel a little more interesting and rare. Yes. I'm sorry, the one that was released already and the one in the UK, those are first editions. The next one will indicate that it's a second edition.
That's a great question. Are any of these books available downstairs or at Barnes & Noble?